I think one of the things that I loved about the lockdown was that I discovered the kitchen. I mean, I really love being in the kitchen. Arrow.net, ARROE.net. We are unplugged and totally uncut with Chef Marcela.
I'm good. It's early out here in California, but I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, but this is when you can step outside in California and you usually have clean air and you can see the lemons on the trees and everything like that.
Yes, I have a huge organic garden, so I literally go outside and see my lemon trees.
Don't you love the scent of a garden like that? Because I'm from the state of Montana, where gardens are just an everyday part of our process, and it's like to go out there and have a moment of solitude is just magical.
Listen, I have 3 kids. So for me, when I'm out of bed early in the morning and I can walk out there and smell, I love the smell of wet dirt. It's usually when the irrigation system is going, when I'm out there at like 6 o'clock in the morning. And you're absolutely correct. It's like the most beautiful way to start my day. It's like, a boost of energy to be in the presence of just nature and all that beauty and all that deliciousness.
I love the way that you say wet dirt, because I mean, we growing the garden and stuff like that. I mean, we would eat the veggies and everything like that fresh from the dirt. There was no reason to go in the house and wash it off. Just eat it, man. That dirt's good for you.
Same. We have a fully 100% organic garden, and half of the time I will literally just grab stuff. I won't even chop it up. We'll eat it. And I think people forget that there's so much, there's actual nutrients in that soil. Like, don't peel the carrot if it's coming out from organic earth, just eat it.
Do you ever sit there and wonder, though, with all the things that you know by way of cooking, why isn't this taught in middle school? Because I mean, I swear children would love to learn how to be better preparers in that kitchen.
And listen, we're going to go in this direction. Are you sure? Because I could be here for 6 hours. I'm with you 100%. I am a deep believer and researcher and lover of geometry and sacred geometry. So in my mind, I'm like, why isn't the classroom outside where they're learning all of these patterns and numbers through nature, at the same time understanding that you can get all of it. You can literally get a geometry class and a class on nutrition and a class on seasons and cycles and the class on the actual calendar. And you know what I'm saying? Like, every single thing you want to learn about how this earth functions is out there literally in my organic garden.
And it's the full circle. I mean, because even as a daily writer, I'll sit there and I'll say, wait a second, I may have a page in front of me, but it started out as a seed. It needed a raindrop. It needed something. And that's the way that I run my life. There's a continuation, and I'm just part of the process.
Absolutely. I've had children. We've opened up the house before to bring children in to do cooking classes and harvesting, and so that they see the process of like garden to table. And it is so heartbreaking when we get those kids who for the first time realize that food doesn't come from a box. It is, and that's when I realized kind of my purpose is when I'm like, oh my goodness, there's literally generations of kids that don't understand this process, that really think that food comes from the supermarket. I mean, we're grateful for supermarkets, right? They make our life easier, but that a lot of these kids, a lot of these generations just don't have an understanding of where food comes from and why it's so important to protect those food sources. Well,
there should be a bus trip through on Highway 1, not along the coastline, but when you go through the fields, because that was an eye opener and a life changer for me when I saw all of that on Highway 1.
Yeah, I think, like I said, it's just about exposure and making sure, you know, in this very connected world, that we take advantage of being very connected and trying to expose and trying to share as much as we can about these processes. I know I do it on my social media. Like, that's my little, that's my little grain of sand, is to get, and that's really kind of the focus, honestly, of this book, to kind of remind people of kind of back to basics. It's not that complicated. You just need a few good ingredients. You just need to understand, seasons. Try to head out to your farmer's market if it's available. And it's just about getting people kind of back to basics and not as dependent on all of these things that are so highly processed.
So do you feel like that you're giving away the family recipes, though, in this? I mean, you go into some real authentic food here.
No, not at all. But I totally get what you're saying. There's two kinds of people in this world. I have always said, like, people that share the recipes and people that don't. Yeah. And I am the former. Like, I just, whenever I see something good or create something good, I think we're all put on this earth with a purpose, and mine was to share my love of food. So all of the recipes that have been handed down to me, I am more than happy to share. In fact, I'll get like, Instagram tags or messages from people that are like, hey, do you mind if I sell like your chocoplan at my shop? And I'm like, go for it. Just tag me. Like, I don't care. I feel like the more goodness you put back into the world, and I've proved this is my life. Like, I am here to say this is 100% true. If you put good out into the world will reward you with just as much goodness. If you hold stuff in and don't share it, the universe is going to be the same towards you.
I love the way that you're using cauliflower, because so many people just go, ooh, cauliflower. But when you use it as a tool, because I mean, I'll have, instead of having, when I do like salsa and chips, it's cauliflower chips is what I'll do. You're doing it with spaghetti.
Yeah. And a lot of these recipes, like you said, are super traditional, but some are not. We have a super mixed family. Like, I'm divorced. I'm not married to my kid's husband. I have very close relationship with my ex-husband's family. They're super Mexican charros. Philip is half Jewish, so there's latkes in the book. So, we touch on everything. But it's more than anything, the book is about living in California and preserving our Mexican heritage. But that cauliflower that you mentioned, listen, I'm like everybody else. People are like, oh, you're a chef, so your kids must eat everything. And I'm like, no, my middle child will go for weeks on just like bread and pasta. Like, I understand. I'm a mom. I get it. And this was one of the recipes where I figured out how to sneak in a whole bunch of cauliflower into a beautiful kind of bechamel sauce to coat spaghetti. So a lot of these recipes are kind of my way of letting everybody know that I'm a mom just like everybody else, and I need to sneak in those vegetables.
You talk about latkes and stuff like that. What's so special about David's latkes? What is he doing with his that would make mine a little bit spicier maybe?
No, well, I do suggest, I believe, a chipotle crema to serve with them.
Really?
But they're made with a combination of sweet potato and russet potato. So you're getting a slightly healthier carb in the sweet potato. And it's kind of snuck in there because I tried actually just full on sweet potato and he would not have it. It was sent back to the chef. The sweet potato latke was sent back to the kitchen. But when I did a combo of both, he happily ate it. So
part of the greatness of this book and the fantasy is the artwork. Was this you that put the artwork together? Who did this?
No, it's an illustrator. I had a mission with this book to work with Latina artists and a Latina publisher. Little Libros is a Latina publisher in LA that's a premier children's bilingual publisher in the US. And she actually suggested Eliza Moreno, who is an artist in Mexico City. She actually sent a list and she was at the top of the list. And I visited her Instagram page and I said, Patty, she's my publisher. I said, Patty, I don't even need to look at the rest of the list. I immediately, when I went to her Instagram page, I saw, because the whole book is my entire family and our home in Chula Vista illustrated, from the garden, my kids, my dog. I have a plate wall, a new kitchen. Everything is illustrated in the book. And the moment I saw her Instagram, I was able to immediately visualize this whole life that we have here in Chula Vista illustrated by her. So I was like, oh, it's her. This is it.
So now, one thing that I'm not seeing in here, but I would love to hear how you would do it, is menudo. I love menudo.
Yeah, I actually do have a recipe for it. I think it's highlights, and it's all about, when I was in Mexico, getting menudo and getting that pork belly and all of the ingredients that you need, or the tripe, you really had to, I remember like literally in my house, they would, listen, I'm not suggesting to try this at home, but they would clean the innards of the pork with actual Clorox, with like chlorine.
Oh, wow.
I'm not kidding. Yes. And this is common practice in Mexico. I'm not suggesting this. Do not do this. But what's amazing is that now you can find all of these ingredients ready to roll. Like even back in the day when I started culinary school, none of this stuff was available to me. Like thank goodness I was in Tijuana, so I could get everything. But on the US side of the border, when I had stuff to do here for work or whatever, it was so hard because a lot of that stuff I couldn't bring with me through the international border. There's restrictions of what you can bring across the border. So I was like, I can't bring this or that with me. But now there's so many, like the Northgate Market, you can find everything. Like you literally have to walk up to the deli. That's what's amazing about living in California, and be like, I'm making menudo, and they'll give you your little bag. Like literally, you don't even have to think about it. It's like being in Tijuana for me, being in the markets in San Diego. So it makes life a lot easier. morning after being up all night.
That's right. That's right.
Is actually what it was. So if you went to like a wedding and it was a good wedding, after dinner, a few hours later, you would get the menudo for breakfast. At like, weddings are on Saturday nights. So sometime around 6, 7 a.m., you would get the menudo so that you could recharge and continue dancing on the dance floor. So, and that's just how it was.
Absolutely. So now the arroz con leche, I mean, this is milk, right?
Arroz con leche, yeah. It's basically a rice pudding.
Ooh.
It's a very simple rice pudding. That's actually one of the favorites. Arroz con leche is basically soaked rice with cinnamon and spices and made super sweet in the pudding, and a really yummy, traditional, straightforward dessert that the kids can really, really help you make out. And that's the purpose of the book. I say, because people are like, is this for kids cooking? I'm like, no, this is for families cooking. Because if it's for kids cooking, you're literally like, you know, grabbing a piece of bread, flattening it out, putting a banana on it and rolling it up. Like, no, this is actual food for the actual family for you to put on the table. But the goal of these recipes is that they're palatable to the entire family. They're not kiddie food, and they're not super spicy, complex adult food from a restaurant. It's like that happy medium where the kids love it and will eat it. It's not complicated. It's traditional. But the parents have the option of adding a little more salsa, a little more habanero, some more garnishes if they want. But you get those base recipes like the arroz con leche that everybody in the family will love.
Well, your mantra is the heart is our kitchen. I mean, to go from there, that right there in itself says family as well as personal growth.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of, and I've always said food is my vehicle, but the honest goal has always been to kind of remind people what the Mexican culture brings to this country. And that's everything is so centered on family. Everything is just so centered on family. And cooking is such a great way to kind of peek into that window and see how, you know, if you go to a Latino's home and talk about recipes, it's always going to be about la abuela, the grandmother, the mother, the grandfather. It's always going to be about tradition. It's always going to be about family. It's always going to be about sharing culture. And that's why it's so important to me. Like I said, it's food, but at the same time, it's kind of a reminder of everything else that we bring to this great country.
So true on that, because my son-in-law is his family is rooted from Mexico and stuff like that. And his tradition is that, you know, dinner begins with creating dinner together. So, and it starts with conversation. It's family time, and it goes on even after we've shared dinner. You've got to continue. So it is all about togetherness, and that's what I feel inside this book.
Thank you. Oh, it means so much to me that you say that. Like, and I think that's actually one of the things. It's crazy to say you miss anything about pandemic, but I actually do miss that, because the world just completely, it didn't slow down. It came to a stop. I was forced to cook with Philip and be with my kids, and it was the most creative I've ever been. That's when I wrote this book. That's when I was the happiest. Like, there were definitely times when it was very nerve-wracking financially, my teenager at home. Like, there were definitely moments that were very difficult about pandemic, but at the same time, it was a reminder of what life looks like when you slow down and just get into the kitchen with your kids and you create and you share, and you literally just have to slow down, because we had no place else to be. So cooking was long, dinners were long, everything just went at the pace that I think it was naturally supposed to go. And I do miss that so much.
That's so funny you say that, because I write about that a lot, that I yearn for those moments. That it's not that I want the pandemic to come back. I just want to have those moments where I can have time to just enjoy time. And because it seems like we're running around again like crazy people. Yes. And how am I supposed to enjoy these asada tacos if I'm on the run?
100%. And how are you supposed to enjoy the process? I've never been more creatively successful than when I was cooking in pandemic. And now I'm back to that. If I showed you my schedule this week, my friend, and next week with the tour, you would be like, what are you doing to yourself? You are insane. And that's kind of how it feels. And we do this to ourselves. And I think that's just what, you know, our jobs require in this world that we live in. But I'm not going to lie. Like, people say, like, would you do all this for free? And I'm like, no, I want to win the lottery and just cook all day.
I've been doing.
I don't want. Yeah, I just want to like cook all day. Can I do that in my kitchen?
So true. I was reading up on this, and that what's happened is a lot of us have become job hoarders because of that 2-year period. We feel like that we have to catch up, and so we're making our lives so busy. I mean, look at your Google Calendar, and so we've got to train ourselves to not be a job hoarder, get into the kitchen, get back to enjoying life again, and that's what this book does.
Yeah, and that's why it was so important for it to come out, and I've been talking about it constantly in the web. It's just about like, get in there with your family, take the time. We went through this whole get everything done for dinner in 30 minutes. And that's, like I said, that's what the universe requires of us because the world moves so fast and we're so busy. But if you're fortunate enough, if you're privileged enough to be able to give yourself the time to go into the kitchen for an hour with your kids and create dinner and set a table and sit your butt down and have a conversation, like that's better than, I dare to say, any kind of therapy. Like I know it is for me, the joy and the satisfaction and the nourishment that it gives me and I know all moms feel this, like when all your kids sit at the dinner table and actually finish their plate of food, to me as a mom, I just feel like I won like the Olympic gold medal, like that. And it doesn't happen every day of the week. It truly doesn't. We're so busy. We're on different schedules. One has soccer, one has karate, one's dancing flamenco. The other one's about to graduate from high school. Like it's crazy. Philip and I travel a lot, work. It's crazy. And when we do all get to sit down, the satisfaction it gives me, and it's almost like childbirth because I'll forget how painful that was, and then I went and did it again 3 times, but then I'll sit there and I'll be like, I can't believe I let a whole week pass without kind of figuring out how to make this happen again because we're so busy. Like when I'm sitting there and I'm looking at them and they're eating the food and we're talking, I'm like, I wish we could do this every day. And our reality is, honestly, we can't.
I mean, I can't believe how close we are to the month of May already. I swear it was just 2020. And here we are in 2022, halfway through.
Totally. Where was I? Yesterday I was doing something and I was leaving an event and the lady said, have a nice summer. And I'm like, we're in Q2, relax.
Now,
I was like, you need to chill, man. You need to chill.
How much does the air fryer play into any of this? Because I mean, does that take away from the authenticity of the quality flavor?
No, it doesn't. I don't know if I have air fryer recipes in there. Maybe I have 1 or 2. I have one, but as a goal in the book and my Zoom class, I do Zoom online classes for like 1,500 people at a time. Nice. It's insane. But I make it a point. And I actually just remodeled my kitchen and everybody was like, did you get all the gadgets? And I'm like, no, because I'm a teacher. And as a teacher, how would you feel if I was cooking and I bring out this state-of-the-art machinery that you don't have at home? So my goal and purpose has always been to, even though I have, obviously this is my job, so I have more experience with ingredients and processes or whatever, but my goal has always been to cook like you. I have a normal kitchen with normal equipment. When people tell me, what's your favorite piece of equipment in the kitchen, and I'm like, a 10-inch chef knife. Like I don't do gadgets. I'm super picky about kitchen real estate. Those countertops are like, unless you are the next gift from like coming of the savior, you know what I'm saying? Like you're not coming in my kitchen. Like boards and knives, that's all that you'll find in there. So I did have a very deep, intense air fryer phase. So there might be a couple recipes in there, but no, there's no issue. I mean, I understand the need to create sometimes healthier versions of some of our traditional recipes, but I'm glad you brought that up because this book is also a reminder that home cooked real Mexican food is actually super healthy. Yeah. There's a couple things that are definitely fried, like flautas, taquitos, and every once in a while, that's fine. I have no issues with my kids eating fried taquitos with, cooked, beautiful organic chicken and shredded lettuce and tomatoes and chiles that are packed with antioxidants. Like I'm cool with them eating that fried flauta, maybe a couple times a week. But true Mexican food, especially where I came from Tijuana, from the Baja area, it's like super fresh. It's ocean to table. It's fresh ingredients. A lot of it is from the earth. A lot of it, like I said, from the ocean. So if you stick to tradition, you actually get healthy food. But I understand that the air fryer, for some people that are like, oh, I just really want to have, like I said, those flautas, but I don't want to fry them, use the air fryer.
I love it. You got to come back to the show anytime in the future. The door is always going to be open for you.
Thank you, my friend. It was such a pleasure. I love talking about, even if it was very briefly, about sacred geometry with you.
I love it. Be brilliant today, okay?
Thank you. You too, my friend.